Alright, alright, alright. Welcome to another one about my Stump's World of Tanks Xbox 360 Bumps Garage videos. Yeah, it's Bumps Garage today. I posted the tiers 1 through 4 video earlier, and so I'm going to make tiers, I believe, probably 5 and 6, depending on the time it takes to do this. I might only do 5s, don't know. It is 9:15 now, so not that that matters, just the amount of time that I sit here and ramble on. I don't want to make these videos 25-30 minutes long. 25-30 minutes is okay. I don't want to make them 40 minutes long, that's for sure. So, yeah, we'll get right to it. I'm going to do a series of garage videos. I'm breaking up in series, like I said just a second ago, because I don't want to make one every time I try to do one long video. It ends up being an hour and a half. So, yeah, no one's going to sit through an hour and a half of me rambling on. So, we're going to get right to it right here. Tier 5s. I have quite a few Tier 5s, quite a few premiums, and a few tanks that I keep just because I keep them. I do not necessarily play all these tanks. Very rare do I play some of them. But I still keep them because, yeah, I keep the premiums because I purchased them, and if I purchase a tank with my real money, guess what? It ain't getting sold. I don't care how bad I think it is, I'm keeping it. So, let's just jump right into it here. M4. The M4 Sherman. M4 Sherman. This tank, surprisingly, at Tier 5, if played decent, it's an okay tank. You gotta play it you gotta play like a medium. You know, you can't just run out and start banging things from the front, because you'll get killed. But if you play it as a medium range, support tank, it can do some pretty good games. We'll get right into my crew. I don't think I have much of a crew in it because I don't play it enough, but I have 6 cents on it, working on, that's not Brothers in Arms, what's the other one? Oh, Mentor. I don't know why I couldn't think of what it was, but hey, that's what it is. And, yeah, we're going to jump right to supplies on this machine. I keep 74 regular shells, 16 premiums. And you need them. And as most of my tanks you'll see, small repair kit, small first aid, manual fire extinguisher. All good things to have. Equipment on this tank, I don't run any because it's a low tier. And customize is just the camo and stuff. I know I put camos on everything just because I think they look cool. Not that I think they're going to do much for certain tanks, but yeah, I think it looks cool. So we'll look at the information on this tank. 51mm armor on the front, 64 for turret, 64 on the sides for turret, 64 on the rear for turret. So if you go held down with this tank at Tier 5, unless you're against some of the bigger Tier 5s, you can do surprisingly okay in this tank. Peek a hill, use a gun depression, take a shot, back up, you know, that type of stuff. It's not a bad little tank. So the sister to it, I say sister because I don't think it's quite as good, is the Ram 2. The Ram 2 you got to play more like a scout than a medium. I mean, mediums are scouts, I guess, for the most part, but you really need to. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. It's a light tank, and you got to play it like a light tank, you know. Although I've had some games where if you play peek-a-boom, come out and shoot, it can do okay, but it's really more of the get somewhere, get some spotting stuff, stay hidden, only take shots when you need to, chase after the artillery when half the team's dead type deal. 76mm at the front for armor, 76 at the turret, 63 on the sides, 38 on the rear. Them numbers may sound better than the Sherman, but when you go back and look at it, the only sections that are really angled good are the front of the upper plate and the driver's cupola. But the problem with it is the driver's cupola is huge, the gunner's cupola is huge, so even with that slant on the front and the armor thickness, them numbers mean nothing, because anyone that shoots this is going to shoot it at either the gunner's cupola there on the left side of the tank, or the driver's on the right side of the tank. You know, they're not going to mess with anything else because, hey, look at them big open spots to shoot at. So, you know, it might sound like it's got higher armor and it sounds better, but really, when you go with the Sherman, everything is angled much better, and it's much harder to hit the driver and the radio man or whatever else is in the front there. I don't know. driver and gun. I don't know if it's a gunner, loader, or whatever he is. But yeah, it's much harder to hit the front of them weak spots on the M4 than it is the Ram. But the Ram is a quick little tank, and you know, it is what it is. It's fun to play every once in a while, but not as a normal tank. And then we get the M4A2E4 Sherman. This is the Shermanator. This is a monster. This is a Sherman at tier 5. You end up with a couple more weak spots over the M4 because the spots in the front there for the driver and stuff are bigger. Not bigger, they're bigger and they're flatter. But I think you end up with, I'm going to go over the stats really quick. You end up with 64 armor, 76, 51 on the sides. So the armor is comparable. It's around the same idea. But again, the flat spots hurt it. But overall, it's still a good little tank at tier 5. I've had some pretty good games in this tank. So if you play it correctly, you know, angle it, stay hidden, take your shots, play smart, you can do pretty good in this tank. So M7, I am not a light tank driver whatsoever. And this tank plays like a light tank. I know it's not considered a light tank in the game. However, really, seriously, this is a light tank. I mean, it plays a lot more like a light tank than it does a medium, that's for sure. And I know some mediums are faster and this and that, or maybe I should say it plays like a fast medium. But I play it usually more like a light than I do a medium, and I'm not good at lights. But I've had a few good games in this going out, and because it sees tier 7, it doesn't get over, I mean, it gets overmatched at tier 7, and when I get into a tier 7, if I am playing it, I get into a tier 7 game, I will pick a spot to try to spot. You know, get into a spot, get some spots, behind a building, something close, down in a ditch kind of thing to get to, you know, play peek and spot, and get my points that way, because it does really good at that. It's very quick as far as the traverse speed, turning speed, going from forward to backwards, it is pretty quick. The turret swings around really quick, so once you get into a game, and if you've lived past the first few minutes, and you know there's the tanks on the enemy have been thinned out, it's a great tank to take off then, go after the artillery, do some flanking, that type of stuff. A lot of people say they don't like this tank, and I've kept it because I've had some pretty good games in it. I've never had, I don't think, a absolute horrible game in this tank. I've had some average ones, some not so good ones, but I've never been in a game, I don't think, in this tank that I've had a really atrocious game. And that's kind of odd, because I usually have them in almost every tank at one point or another. Then again, maybe I don't play this enough. I only got this tank simply because I wanted to go up the American turreted, autoloaders, excuse me, not turreted, tank destroyers, the autoloaders. And, you know, you had to start off with this, pretty much, because I usually start at tier 5. I usually don't mess with the ones below it. So this is where I started, and I kept it because, yeah, it was good enough to keep, really. When I play in tier 5 platoons, you know, we'll do a rotation of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, premium 8, 9, 10, that, you know. And this is the one I seem to take a lot. This is the T1 I take the most when we're on tier 5, so it's a decent little tank. T1 heavy. Some people don't like this tank. I think for tier 5, if played correctly, it's a pretty good tank. It's got horribly flat spots in the front that can get penned by so many. This tank was actually really good before the Russians and stuff came out. If you go back, before they released the Russians, this was a pretty good tank. Not perfect, but it was pretty good. I hated the fact that it's so big in the back, you know, and anyone got side shots on it could just, you know, boom, right through the back corner, boom, right through the back corner. But if you played with your front towards them and you didn't get flanked, it was a pretty formidable tank, really. We'll go through 83 millimeters of front armor, 102 for the turret, so that tells you what you got to do with this tank, right? This is another one of those American tanks where you want to go hell down, and when you go hell down and people don't get around you, you can do pretty good in it, because if they get around you, 44 millimeters on the side and in the back, it's not a pretty sight. Standard penetration is 96 to 160. I keep 18 premiums, which the penetration jumps to 130, 221. And when you're running the premium shells in this, you can do pretty decent in the tank. 960 horsepower engine, so it's got okay acceleration. Not great, not horrible, just okay. Turret rotation is 30 degrees a second. That's not bad. It's okay. I keep a small repair kit, small first aid kit, and a fire extinguisher. And yeah, it's a pretty good tank for the most part. As far as equipment, nothing. I used to keep equipment on it when I played a lot, but now that I don't really play it that much, there's no sense of keeping, every time I need that extra 300,000 here, 200,000 there, I always seem to go back to my tier 5s and 6s, 4, 5s and 6s, and take anything off that's on it. I think a lot of people probably do that. For the package, I have the top package on it, the T1E5 with a 76mm gun. You can play with this package in the middle and not go to the E5 to get to the M6, but the E5 gives you a higher horsepower engine, and it's worth it, to me anyways. T14, this came in a bundle. I don't remember what tanks, maybe the T14, the Ram 2, maybe. Originally, funny story, I purchased this tank originally, actually purchased this tank in a bundle, and excuse me, and played it for a while, and I got drawn in when I first played the game, the sloping of the armor and makes it this impenetrable. And yeah, once the Russians came out, this tank was just, the gun is not good enough at its tier unless you get a tier 5 game with not many heavily armored tanks in it. It can do okay then, but it's really been overmatched and outclassed since about when the Russians came out, which was quite a long time ago. So I sold it. And then I had a friend, not really a friend, but someone I play with online, Doyok. He had one at the time. He was like, you should get it again. We can do T14 platoons. I was like, okay. So I bought it again. And played it a few times. And I said, well, seeing I bought it twice, I'm not going to sell it again. So it just sits in my garage, the tank whore that I am. And every once in a while I dust it off and take it out. I grease her up and take her out for a match or two. It has its pluses and minuses, 51mm armor on the front, 101 for turret, so 51, but with the sloping, I think it's more like close to 100mm with the sloping, I think. But the gun, 69 115, 95 159, I mean, those are horrible numbers, really horrible numbers. And, when you try to play this tank, not only do you have them horrible numbers, but the turret traverse and the tank traverse, I mean, chassis rotation, 20 degrees a second. Ugh. You get this on swampy land, and it probably goes down to like 12 degrees. It's almost unplayable. So, but like I said, I keep it because, yeah, it is what it is. It sits here, and every once in a while, I get nostalgic and take it out for a spin. So, AT2, I've gone past this tank, obviously. However, I've kept it because I've had some really, like most people that have the AT2, really good games in it. I've had games when it's been 5 or 6 on 1 and won the game, and if it get it tier, this can be a really, really fun tank to just dominate. There's been many games that I've been the last one against 5 or 6 players and lost too, because once they start shooting that big old cupola, it ends pretty quick. But I've bounced a lot of shells from the side and everything else in this too, from tanks that I think should append it. So it's one of those weird tanks that sometimes it's awesome, sometimes it's not. Let's see, we're gonna go, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. We'll back out there, huh? Wrong button, Bump. As you can tell, this one's being recorded live. I'm not doing a commentary after the fact, so how about that? That's a little bit better. Equipment, we have loading gun rammer on there. And I've kept it on there because, even though this is a fast firing gun, the faster it fires, the better. Supplies, as everyone else pretty much, small repair, small first aid, manual fire extinguisher, 12 premium rounds, and 84 of the regular rounds. And I don't play this tank very often, but, sometimes it's fun just to take it out and it's sort of like the Churchill at tier 5. Sometimes it's just fun to take it out and bomb around in it. The PZ4 Hydro. This machine right here, I have had some really good games in. I think I had my first Radley Walters in this, and it's one of those tanks that it came out on sale, and I told myself there was no way I was spending, I don't know, if it was 10,000 gold or something on this, even though it gave you like a month of premium time and this and that. I was like, yeah, but jeez, it's just way too much money. But then I got thinking about it. I was like, you know something, I bet you they're not going to offer this too many times. This is going to be one of those rare premiums. So I said, yeah, I pulled the trigger and bought it. And I got a Radley Walters in it. So, overall, it's not a really great tank. It's average. It's average at just about everything. But it's a novelty thing. You know, like I said, I am a tank whore, and I like to have tanks like this. And Wargaming knows that people like me do things like this. You know, we purchase this stuff not because we think it's an awesome tank, just because we want it in our garage, because not everyone has it. So, very flat in the armor, easy to pin from the front, easy to pin that huge cupola. But if you play this tank like a support tank and you sit back and slowly just, you know, spot what you can and shoot, just stay out of range of the other tanks and use the accuracy of the gun, which is fairly decent, and just, you know, start laying fire into them, you can do pretty good in the tank. Like I said, you know, I've had, I think, a couple top guns, and I've had that Radley Walters and a few other good games in it, but I don't play it enough, really. I should play it more than I do, because at tier 5 it's not a bad tank, but usually when we're playing tier 5s in the platoon, they're playing regular tier 5s, and seeing this has premium matchmaking, a lot of times I don't want to take it with them because I don't want to get into a tier 7 game with it. So, but look at the equipment on it. I don't know if I have any, just the gun rammer. That is it. Supplies, 20 premium rounds because you need them. And that's pretty much that. And there's no packages on it because it's a premium tank. But was it worth the money? No. Am I glad I bought it? Yeah, because I have it in my garage. So, yeah, you know, the tank whore that I am, if you have a chance to buy a tank like this, you buy it. And if you regret it, too bad, because you bought it. This isn't the only tank at this tier that I bought, and I don't really regret buying it. I shouldn't say that. It's not a bad little tank, and I'm glad I have it, because not many people have it. T-25. This tank's a piece of shit. Really, no, seriously, people, it's a piece of shit. And I'm not even going to talk about it that much. I don't particularly like it. I don't have any fun in it, and I just think it's, yeah, it's a piece of shit. And the only reason I haven't sold it is because it's a premium tank. So I was like, yeah, I bought it, I'm gonna keep it. Much better tank right here than that right there. That's all I gotta say. The PZ-34. I've kept this tank because at tier 5 this thing can be a monster. It's got great accuracy, it's got good penetration for its tier, it's got decent speed, it's got decent mobility. You can look at the Hydro, they look a lot alike, really. There's a lot of similarities there, but this one has that nice sloping in the front, and it still has a big cupola, commander's cupola, but that sloping in the front can get you some decent bounces when you angle it. We'll look at supplies, 8 premiums, 78 regular rounds, and then of course small, and manual. Equipment, no equipment on it at this time. I had equipment on it when I was running it. I had gun rammer and gun laying drive, I believe, and it was a fun tank to play through. That's why I never got rid of it. You know, a lot of times tier 4, tier 5, I don't like the tank, I don't keep it. I'm a tank whore, and I like keeping certain tanks, but there's a lot of tanks that I've had that I don't have anymore because they're complete shit and I hate them. This was not one of them. This is a good little tank at tier 5. The Matilda 4 in its snot green colors. This has got to be the ugliest camo in the game, and I've kept it on there because I'm not going to buy any more camo for it, because yeah, it's a Matilda. It does okay, I guess. It bounces some shot, not as much as the actual Matildas, but you know, It was another one of those premiums. It's like, you know, hey, come buy it. And I was like, yeah, not many people have it, so hey, I'm gonna buy it. So that's pretty much the story on that one, and I'm sticking to it. Not a bad little tank, but definitely not great either. However, I find it very comparable to the T14, really, in just the way it plays, the speed, the armor, the power of the gun. They're very comparable, which doesn't say a lot for the Matilda. KV-1. Strong Soviet tank. Much fun at the KV-1. I don't play this enough. I used to play it more, and I've had quite a few good games in it, and probably really should play it more than I do when I play Tier 5. I don't seem to take it very often when we play Tier 5 platoons, but I probably should, because at its tier, it's a pretty formidable tank. It really can have some good games when played correctly, like all the Russians, you know. You can have a really monster game if everything works out good. It's got pretty good sloping. You got kind of flat spots where the machine gun port and the driver port is, but you don't have any cupolas on the top, and you got a round turret there for the most part. If they don't hit the little mantlet there and they hit the sides there, they're fairly round right in the corners, so it'll bounce. And you run up against this in T14s and Matildas, and you have a field day with them, because it's a much better tank than they are. The packages, I believe I have the top package in it. Affirmative, the KV-11 with the 85mm F3. The 122 is the one below it, but the 122, that 122 is not as good as the Top Gun, I don't think. But when you play through it, obviously, when you see this, you can get the KV-57, and then from there you can go right to the T-150 if you want. So if that's your cup of tea, when I went through this, I wanted the KV-1S. And I know that once you get up to this gun, I'm pretty sure when you get to the KV-1S, it's one of the guns on the KV-1S, right? Am I right or wrong? The 85, right there, DT5. So I had that one pretty quick. So it was much better to play with that than it was to play with the first gun on it. So, but yeah, the KV-1, it's a good tank. Anyone that was looking to buy a Tier 5, it's definitely worth going up and definitely worth keeping. As you can see, I've kept my equipment on it: medium caliber rammer, enhanced gun lane drive, improved vents. I haven't sold it on it because every once in a while I do take this tank out and it needs all that stuff, so there's no sense of selling it and rebuying it. So this is one of the few that at Tier 5 I've kept my equipment on, because when I do play it, it does need that stuff. But once you have all that stuff on there, it can be a pretty fun tank to play. Churchill 3. This is another one that so many people in the forum say, oh, you got a Tier 5 premium, the best one to have is a Churchill 3. I don't necessarily think so. I think the PZ4 Hydro is better than this. You can have some decent games in it. The armor can be kind of troll at times, but the gun is yeah. And in any tanks that are out there that are heavy hitters, like the KV-1 will do a number on this tank. So it's kind of like, at one time this might have been a really good premium Tier 5, but now, if it sees all Tier 5s, maybe good, you can have good games in it that way. But once you start seeing Tier 6s in it, KV-1Ss, they laugh at this thing. Some of the new Japanese tanks, laugh at this, because they come right up behind it and just boom 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 boom, and you're dead. So KV-220, I purchased this on a whim because it was a premium and not too many people had it, and something, I understand why not too many people have it. It's kind of a piece of shit. It's a huge tank with a small gun, and the armor can help you out, but again, once you get into with Tier 6s up against KV-1Ss and KV-2s, you might as well be driving a rock. It's that bad at times. If you get it all tier 5 game, it can be okay. You can have fun, but once you see tanks that are above you, yeah, a lot of times you're not going to have a good game. I think not the armor, not the speed, but the gun kind of let you down in this tank for some reason. I shouldn't talk too much about it because I haven't played a ton of games in it. I bought it, I played a few games, I didn't really like it, and I haven't played it that much. So maybe I should take it out for a run and do some videos on it. Maybe I'll try that this week. After all this bullcrap ops are gone, so you can actually start winning games once in a while again. And that is my tier 5. Hope you enjoyed the tier 5s. I'll get the tier 6 out soon. They were too long to merge together, so as usual, comment, rate, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down, and remember, when you're on that battlefield, shoot the red ones.